We are live. Welcome to I hope we are. Welcome to Politics Friday. Joining me this morning is Matt Ducey and Duncan Webb. Good morning to you both.
Good to be here, as always.
Morning, Chris. Morning, Duncan.
I hope we're live. If we're not live, we'll just talk to ourselves. Who cares? Let's discuss issue number one, Environment Canterbury. I'm on the fence over this one, actually. So Environment Canterbury, of course, declares a nitrate emergency. You've got some people suggesting it's nothing more than a cynical political stunt. It is election time after all. But I think there are some merits in this, aren't there? Matt, to you on this first. Was Ecan right to declare a nitrate emergency, or was it nothing more than political theatre?
Oh, I think purely political theatre, Chris. Another gimmick from Ecan. It wasn't that long ago they were relaunching another look at the railway. Now they're going back to the well of nitrates. Look, this is well-traversed space, very cynical, probably one of their last meetings before they go out on the campaign trail. Look, Ecan's days are numbered. Let's be very clear. I personally think that it's inevitable. What really have they done in the last term? They're grappling to look as though they've done things as well. You've got a chair who's leaving and openly talking about either going to stand for with Duncan with Labour or the Greens at the next general election. So he's going to leave a few landmines, political landmines along the way. And I think what's quite the irony here is actually the two votes that got this over the line were the two representatives from Ngāi Tahu who weren't even democratically elected on the board. So people will see it for what it is, and you can see why now people have lost all faith in Ecan.
Just back up the bus one moment there. I mean, this is quite strong stuff you're saying, Matt Ducey. I mean, you're suggesting Ecan's done nothing and their days are numbered. Do you know something more than I don't know? Because we don't really know if that's the case.
Well, it's my personal view. I think people have had enough of regional councils that aren't performing. You know, we've been very clear. You look at our past interventions with Ecan. You know, nothing's off the table how we respond to their performance. Clearly, democracy will take its place. They're going through an election. People will have their say about who they want round that board. But I think it's very clear about the changes in the RMA. That'll set the direction for local and regional councils. And I think that, we'll have a real hard look at that space.
Duncan, you've got nothing to say about this, do you?
I think it's outrageous what Matt just said. I mean, cabinet ministers don't have personal views. They represent the government. And Matt Ducey just said that Ecan's days are numbered. The last time that the national government suspended democracy in Christchurch was when the Ecan was trying to protect our groundwater then. And here we go again. Nitrates are a problem. The evidence is there. There are increasing nitrate levels in our water, and we need to do something about it. We can't simply sit there and, as this government is doing, get rid of freshwater standards, get rid of basic bottom line saying nitrates cannot exceed this level, and just say, oh no, don't worry about it, put a few more cows out on the Waimakariri plains, whilst our drinking water is becoming, and nitrates, it's very hard to get nitrates out of water once they're in. And the fact of the matter is that as the nitrates seep down, they get greater and greater and greater. And to say things like, oh, it's just in the top layer of the aquifers, this becomes a 50-year problem and a 50-year fix. So for Matt to say, don't worry, those but Ecan greenies, those Ecan councillors have got, their job is to be the stewards of our air and our water and our biodiversity. And they've got something to say. And what they've got to say is we need to do something about nitrates in Canterbury's waters. And if you're going to ignore that, you're putting your head in the sand. And to say that if they're doing their job, we'll disestablish them because we don't like that, that is an outrageous, and so much for the localism that the National Party produced or went to the election with. This is central government dictating to local bodies what they should be doing.
But if they were so concerned about the nitrates, why would they say it at the end of their political term where they could have done it, at the very start of their 3-year term? It does seem a little bit cynical in that respect, doesn't it, Duncan?
Well, the question is there a problem with nitrates or not? You know, you can talk about timing, but the fact of the matter is we have had a growing problem with nitrates in our groundwater, and Matt Ducey doesn't want to do anything about it. And I'm astounded because it's the people of Rangiora and Kaipoi who are actually suffering from this most at the moment.
Yeah, but Duncan, look, your points would be valid, but the thing is, you're misunderstanding the points I'm making as well. And I think Chris referred to it with his question before to you. I don't disagree that we need to ensure that we are reducing nitrogen levels on our farms. And actually, when you look at the work our farmers are doing, they have significantly done that. And it is an area that I think we do need to focus on. My point is, you've got a regional council that in the last throes of a term, gets into some sloganeering, which is really, people are sick of the left slogans of let's call it a nitrate emergency. I mean, really, what does that do? What have they been doing for 3 years to get on top of this issue? And the only thing they can do is throw out a slogan. That's what I think people are
Oh, look,
quite cynical of. It's another Ecan gimmick. Just when they kicked off looking at bringing back commuter rail on the Mate trunk line, I mean, really, what have these people been doing? And they should hang their head in shame.
oh, I think that's ridiculous. I think the fact that they're actually addressing something and that you're kind of sidestepping, and I agree the farmers have done a good
What
job,
are
but
they
they,
addressing by going out and making a slogan of an emergency? It
look,
sounds all good, Duncan, but we had 6 years of your government making those slogans and nothing happened.
yeah, no, no. Well, we did have slogans like reducing child poverty, which went down under our government and is going up
Well,
under
yes,
yours.
and look at that,
Where the economy was growing under ours, and
Yeah,
yours
oil and
it's
gas.
stalled and shrinking.
We want to
What
get
we
to,
have got.
we will get to the economy in just a moment, actually, because that's another interesting thing. But I do wonder whether when we start using words like emergency, it does start to feather down the actual importance of this whole discussion. You look at when the Christchurch City Council declared a climate and ecological emergency, nothing much happened from that, but all it did do was give staff more power to ram through various bits and pieces under the name of an emergency. So
It's a statement.
does the word emergency actually work or not, Duncan?
Well,
Just briefly.
it's a statement of intent. It's a statement of priority. It's like of all the things we need to do, this is right up the top of the list. And
Yeah.
so I don't object to that. The statement itself doesn't reduce nitrates in the groundwater, of course, but what it does is, you're right, send a signal both around the council table and to staff that this is an issue we need to address.
It is
Yeah,
an
such
issue.
a
So therefore,
priority, they had to declare that. Sorry, Chris.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in response to Duncan, such a priority that they waited till their very last meeting of a 3 year term to declare it. I mean, people will see this for what it is.
Having said that, though, Matt, should farmers be forced to pay for cleaning up nitrate pollution under a pollution pay models, as been suggested by some? Is that something that we should look at?
Well, I mean, farmers are already paying because actually it's a huge cost to them to ensure that they're bringing these new tools and technologies on farm to address nitrate levels. There's never been the visibility of nitrate levels that we have today on farm. And actually, we've got to back our farmers, not kick them. These are the ones that are actually out there on a world stage in an export-led economy. We've got record sales offshore with our primary industries. We should support the reduction of nitrogen levels they are achieving on farm, not some gimmicky townie sitting around a table looking for a slogan for a media headline.
I suppose it worked in one way, didn't it? The serious part to all of this, though, is with these studies, some of the studies that have come out, and I think even the former Canterbury Medical Officer of Health, who I think in some respects was a bit too mouthy in saying what he wanted to actually say, and down the road he went, but he even said to me, I remember this about 10 years ago now, there are plenty of studies that are linking high nitrate levels to cancer and preterm births. I mean, this is not myths. So how much risk is acceptable for Canterbury's drinking water, and what immediate protections will either of you back? Matt, to you first on this, because it clearly is an issue, a health
Well,
issue.
it very much is an issue that we are dealing with in Canterbury. And I just go back to the work that our local catchments are doing to understand nitrate levels. As even Duncan identified, this has been a long time in the making. It will take time for nitrate levels to work through, but actually the work on farm by our Canterbury farmers has been significant at great cost to them to bring down the use of nitrogen on their farms. We can actually go one further. We've got the Gene Tech Bill before Parliament as well. That will be revolutionary in actually bringing down the use of nitrogen on our farms too. So we are giving our farmers the tools. They are committed to it. But just going out there and calling it an emergency is just another gimmick from Ecan.
Need to move on. And I'm on the fence on this one, so hopefully either of you can get me off the fence on this. So do you believe that Māori born overseas should have special pathway to New Zealand citizenship based on their ancestry? Duncan, to you first, because of course anybody who says no is called a racist.
I will say no, but I do think there is an issue here.
Racist!
I think we have an issue about New Zealanders because we have a massive amount of New Zealanders overseas, and if they have children overseas, they're not automatically citizens. Whereas a lot of other nations, Ireland, the UK, have kind of a 2 or 3 generation entitlement to be citizens. Now, I can understand why because our citizenship law has changed quite a lot over time. And this may be something we need to have a look at because the kind of first generation diaspora having a kid kind of has an expectation that they can come back to New Zealand with them. Now, in fact, the reality is that a parent can bring a child back and they'll be able to work through the citizenship process. But when that child grows up and wants to come back independently, it may come as a bit of a surprise. Māori or non-Māori, being a New Zealander is a pretty precious thing. And I think, our identity, we carry it with us and we give it to our children. And so I can understand that issue and it's worth looking at,
I don't disagree. I think it is worth looking at, but it just seems a bit disappointing that it's an emergency look at now. Emergency, there you go, at the Waitangi Tribunal looking at this as if it's got some teeth in this, but it doesn't really. Matt, to you on this, I mean, is this debate about race, ancestry, treaty obligations, or is it about keeping one consistent set of rules for everyone? What do you think?
Oh, well, I think it's all of the above, Chris, and actually it's how people approach it, of how they'll frame it. Article 3 of the treaty is about equal citizenship. And actually, when you look at how we allocate our passports, it's not necessarily along ethnicity, it is along nationality, because countries are sovereign states. I think there is worth looking at the issue of ancestry around the citizenship. I'm not sure around ancestry and being an entitlement to a passport initially. The reason I say that, and I'll give you my own experience. Like many Kiwis, I went to London on my OE. The OE is classically 2-year visa. My grandfather was a British migrant, so I had ancestry to be there with a visa. I wasn't entitled to a passport. In fact, I lived there 15 years and never had a passport. So I think there is an ability, if you have someone born offshore, to maybe look at how they might come through on an ancestry visa. But the issue that's been in the media lately is someone saying because of their whakapapa, they should be entitled to a passport even when they're born outside the country. And I'm not necessarily sure we would want to move to that, because it is very wide ranging then, and quite rightly, we should protect our passports.
Yeah, and also I think some in the media have made it very much a race issue, and it's probably a lot broader than that. It really is. That it's been a bit too simplistic in my view. I want to move on to the economy. God help us all. Duncan, to you first. Was Finance Minister Nicola Willis right to blame US tariffs for the GDP drop, or is this a homegrown problem?
Well, Australia doesn't seem to have a problem with the tariffs that have been imposed on them because they've got positive growth. In fact, and the tariffs placed on Australia in some areas were much greater. And in fact, I want to make a point about the tariffs because the tariffs for New Zealand are lower than a lot of our competing countries. So the French tariffs on their wine, for example, is a lot higher than the tariffs on New Zealand wine. That actually gives us an advantage over French wine in an American market. So look, other economies, the UK, Australia, the US, they're doing just fine. It's only our economy where we've got a government that doesn't spend, right? And going out and saying to the New Zealand public, oh, you should have more activity, more business activity, more consumer spending, and then, creating an economy where people are losing their jobs and are getting 1% pay rises while inflation's at 3%, that is not how you get a growing economy. I mean, Nicola Willis has been in charge for 2 years. This is her fault. And no wonder that a former finance minister, Roger Douglas, is saying, give it up. It's time for you to quit and give you the job to someone who knows what they're doing.
Matt, do you want the job, finance minister? You got some answers for us?
He'd be better.
Well,
And that's
I
how
think
bad it is. That's how
I'll
bad it
stick
is.
to my lane and stick with mental health. Thanks, Chris and Duncan. But the reality is, and it is difficult times out there, as the second quarter showed, negative 0.9% of GDP, and that is our goods and services as a country. And Duncan talking about other countries' response to USA tariffs is all reflective of the confidence within a country and the confidence of a business investing another dollar or employing another staff member. So it is locally felt. And it is interesting that we are compared to Australia when people are asking they're in a positive GDP environment. But actually, when you look at the reforms this government's trying to lead, whether it be around our productive economy, if you want to take mining, for example, which we're opposed to with other parties in the opposition, is actually it shows why Australia has a positive GDP. We need to move towards a more productive economy, having bigger sectors like mining as well, and that's how we will grow the economy, more goods and services, and more confidence in our business sector.
Is mining really the way? I mean, forgive me, it sounds a bit old-fashioned to say the only way to improve the economy is mining.
No, I'm definitely not saying the only way, Chris. I'm just saying is that when you look at one of the things that is a key part of the Australian economy, it is the productive sector. We've just had a talk about constraints on our farmers who are leading the export recovery of our economy as well. We've got an ambitious target to double the amount of exports. And all I'm saying is that if it's got good enough to compare ourselves to Australia now around positive GDP growth, then actually let's have a good look at freeing our economy up, that we actually can have a stronger productive economy that will lift us out and have more goods and services being sold. And ultimately, you just need to look at what's happening in Canterbury, right? There's a bit of a two-speed economy going on. We're slightly inoculated from the wider picture in New Zealand, and that's because the productive sector of Canterbury is leading this locally.
Well, it was. I think it was, but it's gone down to about fourth in line now. But anyway, I take your sentiments there, Duncan.
I don't accept that just digging stuff up is the way to solve this problem. It's kind of a 1920s solution to a 2020s issue. But we do have some great sectors in New Zealand. We've got great tech sectors. We've got great entertainment sectors and digital sectors. And Canterbury's at the forefront of a lot of that. And I'd like to see a government that really, looks at those sectors which are forward-facing and future-looking, rather than thinking, let's dig some shit up and sell it. It's just
Well, the other thing I point to too is that the government seems to be slightly obsessed with the entertainment sector, the tourism dollar. But actually, when it comes to the proof in the pudding, the entertainment dollar doesn't actually bring much in terms of the economy. It's a bit of a magic dream. It's quite superficial. Do you worry that that's actually the case, Matt, there? I mean, we've got images of the Prime Minister with his daughter at some concert sort of suggesting this is going to be the be-all, end-all to help the economy. But actually, events don't really help the economy. All they do is change the dollars as where the dollars are being spent. That's what the research says. So while it's great that we've got, Christchurch's stadiums coming here, it doesn't necessarily mean a greater economy. It means the entertainment dollar, instead of being spent at the local Avonhead pub, gets redirected to the stadium. So it's kind of not this huge economic buoyancy that we're all led to believe. So what is the answer then? If it's not going to be just the entertainment sector, if it's not going to be mining, what are we going to do to feel better?
Yeah, I would actually disagree
Excuse
with
the
you
monologue.
there, Chris. If you actually look at tourism, which is our second biggest export earner, sometimes when we think of tourism, we focus too narrowly thinking about international tourists coming here for sightseeing. Again, we've been compared ourselves to Australia and their positive GDP growth. We can learn from there. They actually talk about their visitor economy, right? And actually, within that, there is a significant part of that, a great number of people who will travel internationally, but also domestically around major events. And the problem we have compared to Australia, because they have a strong productive and extractive environment and economy, is actually they do put up significant funding from both state and federal governments to support big events coming to their country, coming to their states, coming to their local areas. So we want to be internationally competitive, and we want to attract some of those major draw cards, because we do know, I've actually just been in Wellington for the last All Black game. I took the son up there, and what a brilliant game, and well done to the South African supporters, who I thought they were brilliant. But that town was full the whole weekend. Every hotel room was full. Every restaurant I walked past was full. People came from overseas, all over the country. So I think when you look at that, clearly it's a way forward to stimulating our local economies.
But then again, aren't you suggesting in the greater scheme of things is corporate welfare is the way to go? Because you're suggesting that we use taxpayer dollars to promote international artists or rugby games to come to
Oh, come on,
Christchurch.
Chris. Are
But
you objecting for a $7 million subsidy to Taylor Swift? She needs it. I mean, there is an issue here, and it is look. GDP isn't the only measure of how we're doing, because if we get Taylor Swift here and we get a whole flood of people into Christchurch, it will give us a GDP uptick, right? And everyone will feel good about it because money will change hands. But as you point out, it's just money going from one person to the other. It's not like you've built something or you've created something or you've created some particular wealth. So we do need to be careful. And I am a wee bit concerned that this is a bit like when the Roman Empire was failing, and so they'd have a gladiators show, sort of the old bread and roses kind of thing. What we really need is genuine growth in our economy, growth in meaningful jobs, growth that means people are actually better off. And having a concert gives a kind of sugar hit and it makes us feel good, but it doesn't in the long run create business, it'll help the guy in the pub for a day, but it won't create a long-term business. So, I'm not overly excited about this. I understand what we're doing. We had a significant events fund. We didn't extend it to concerts. That's the big innovation that these guys are doing. They're saying, we're going to have entertainers included and not just kind of Women's World Cup and things like that. So, I'm in two minds.
Matt, you were nodding. I'll let you have the last say before we say goodbye.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Look, all I'd say is we're a small nation at the bottom of the world. We need to get out and sell our goods internationally, trade our way out of the difficult times. Our biggest economies that bring new money into the country are our primary industries and also international tourism. So that's why we're focused and had a good discussion today on both those areas. And I disagree with Duncan. International tourism brings new money into the country, which employs people. They pay tax. We get that to pay for our healthcare and education. That's how New Zealand's economy works, and that's why we're focused on growing it.
Okay.
Well, good luck with that, because it's shrinking at the moment.
And I think Taylor Swift is going to solve all our problems, isn't she? Gentlemen, Matt Ducey and Duncan Webb, thank you very much for your lively live discussion this morning. Have a lovely weekend.
Ka kite anō.